All right. Good evening, everyone who's joining us on Facebook and on YouTube, and those who are joining us on Google Meet. Welcome to this session, this week's session on healthy and better living. Today we are dealing with adverse childhood experiences, how to overcome them, and as my guest tonight, we have Miss Jane Correa, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist who's based in the US. Welcome, Miss Jane. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that you honored our invitation to be here with us. I'll give over to you, then you can start with your presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am happy to be here. I hope I'm loud and clear. Um, yeah, so the
Miss
conversation to
Jane.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Jane, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Seems like
Can you
there's
hear
a
me?
disconnection. Jane,
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Jane, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hmm.
I can hear you. No idea what happened.
Oh,
Let me leave and come back.
I can hear you now. Yes.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Because I could hear you um the whole time.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. You can still hear me, right?
Okay, great. We can continue.
Okay, good. So the conversation is on adverse childhood experiences, their impact, and
Seems like Um, hi everyone. Yes, I'm so sorry. We were lost. Technical issues there. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me. Can somebody who's on Facebook or YouTube confirm if they can hear me on the comments? Um, can you guys hear me on Google Meet?
Yes,
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Jane, I'm back. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Thank you. We can go ahead. Apologies for that. Then the network connection is not working with me at all. Let's continue.
That is okay. Where are we? Okay, we're getting started. So yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, the conversation today is on adverse childhood experiences, and um, I think this is a very important conversation that we need to be having as a society because it's experiences that impact so many of us, and so many of us can connect and relate with it. And this is there's a study that was done here in the US by Kaiser and the Center for Disease Control, regarding adverse childhood experiences. And the people who were interviewed during this study were middle class people who sometimes we might think that, oh, they had a good childhood, maybe they didn't have challenges, they're doing okay financially and things like that. But a lot of studies, of course, are being done, but this specific one was very, very significant. And even as we get started, I would like all of us to think about our own childhood. And this conversation may bring up some uncomfortable, feelings about certain life experiences in our lives, mostly in our childhood between 0 to 18 years, and some, as adults. And even as you engage here, I think it's important to remind yourself that feeling a certain way is not a bad thing. Feeling uncomfortable is actually a good thing because that feeling is sending a message that maybe that memory, it's still raw, and maybe it needs to be revisited and maybe explored to see what it is about that incident that keeps me uncomfortable when I hear about it or when I talk about it. And I would also suggest that you listen with an open mind. It may feel like, why do I have to talk about my childhood? It's already past. I'm a grown up now. Why does it matter? It matters. It really does. So enter the conversation with an open mind, a learning mind, a curious mind, a mind that is open to hearing maybe things that you had not considered. Because as a society, especially us who, we grow up in Africa, we are raised with certain cultural norms and expectations, it may seem like, well, this is normal. Why do I have to question it? So it's okay to maybe also not agree with some of it. It's okay, but let's just be curious and open to the conversation, because I think it's important as a people so that we can really heal together. So wherever you are, if you can, I'm just gonna maybe pause some of those questions to you, and for each.
Please pardon me, Miss Jane. Darius, you can't hear anything. You can't hear her. You can hear me. Okay.
No, they can hear me.
Can you guys hear Miss Jane? Grace, Jessica, Miriam. You can't hear her at all. Okay, let's try.
Can we probably try duo? We can just all be in the duo. We can.
It won't work with the ones that are on Facebook and on YouTube. No, it's fine. Let me try connecting. Where's Google Meet?
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to set up another gadget. Let me see if it's gonna help. Okay. How did I? Okay. Okay. Can you guys hear me? No.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Miss Jane, please say something. Let's see if they can hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Awesome. Let's continue.
Okay, great. So do I repeat what I just said, or should I just continue? Just
if you can recap what you've already said already.
Okay. So yeah, and thanks for that feedback, because it helps to make sure that we are all on the same page, right? So I mean, I was just saying that let's just enter this conversation with an open mind and just curiosity. Some of it may not feel very comfortable, even thinking about it or even talking about it. But it's necessary kind of conversation that we need to have as a people. I grew up in Kenya myself, and was born and raised there. I came here in my early 20s in the US. And, I work as a mental health professional, and I see people from all places in the world, all colors, all ages, all denominations, and when I see these clients myself, white, Hispanic, Indian, Asian, like all kinds of different races, you realize that we have so much in common, a lot of similarities in our upbringings. So while our skins might look different, a lot of our experiences and childhoods, there's a lot of similarities. So I would really suggest that, let's open ourselves up to this conversation. Some parents, some adult children, or even young people, we may have a different mindset based on the times when we were brought up and the messages that were sent to us by maybe our parents, our teachers, the society. It all varies, because as we can see in 2023 now, there's a lot of changes that have happened over time, technology, research, science, spirituality. We are even evolving even religions are evolving. So enter this conversation with an open mind, so that we can learn and grow as a people. So and if you feel like it's too much, you're more than welcome to disengage and maybe come back when you feel you're ready to hear and learn. I think I wanted to just talk about this study that I mentioned earlier on adverse childhood experiences. And there are about 10 questions that were asked by to people who were surveyed during the time the study was done. And a lot of it we can all relate with. And for each question, you give yourself 1 point if it's a yes. And if it's not a yes, then it's a 0. And then at the end, you will be able to know what is your score from that. And I want to give a disclaimer that as you're doing this may not put into consideration the amount of work you have done over the years. You know, a lot of us have been in this healing journey, and some of those experiences may not have so much power over our life anymore, you know, especially, you know, if you've gone through abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, sexual, neglect, you know, all these different things. You may have done work along the way, and the score may not mean much for you at this time of your life, because we are humans, we develop resiliency over time. So, but if you still feel those experiences are still very significant for you, for each question, if it's a yes, it's a score. So, and I will just read those questions. So for the first one, it's like, did your parent or any other adult who raised you in your household swear at you, you know, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you? You know, did they act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? If it's a yes, enter 1. If it's a no, it's a 0. The second question is, did a parent or any other adult who raised you in the household often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you? Did they ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured? If the answer is yes, put a 1. Did an adult or a person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle you or have you touch their body in a sexual way? Or try to or actually have sex with you? If the answer is yes, enter 1 as your score. Did you often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special? Or your family didn't look out for each other, feel close to each other, or support each other? If the answer is yes, put 1 as your score. Did you often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, and had no one to protect you? Or your parents were too drunk or high to take care of you or take you to the doctor if you needed it? If the answer is yes, it's a score 1. Were your parents ever separated or divorced? If the answer is yes, enter 1. We are almost done with the questions. Was your mother or stepmother often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at her? Sometimes or often kicked, beaten, hit with a fist, or hit with something hard? Ever repeatedly hit over at least a few times or threatened with a gun or knife? If the answer is yes, put a 1. And this is a question testing more on domestic violence, whether you saw your parents fighting, you saw, you know, there was fights within your household for the parents. Did you ever live with anyone who was a problem drinker or alcoholic, who used street drugs? If the answer is yes, enter 1. The 9th one, it's the second last question. Was a household member depressed or mentally ill? Or did a household member attempt suicide? Whether it was successful or not, if the answer is yes, enter 1. The last question, did a household member go to prison? If the answer is yes, enter 1. Those are the 10 questions. Add up your score and see what you got. Oftentimes when we go through these experiences when we are growing up, we live our life as children. We call it like on survival. You're on survival. You're always on your toes. You don't know what's going to happen. So you're constantly trying to protect yourself from getting in danger. Usually, you don't want to be beaten, maybe. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to, do something that will get you in trouble in any way. So you're constantly trying to protect yourselves, to survive, technically. And I see was she kicked out? Are everyone able to hear me? Hi, Chilala. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hello, I'm getting you, yes. Sia has left. I don't know what's up, but we are getting you.
I know she was kicked out, and she's also having other people listen in, and I don't know if I continue that will, whether can you check, are you able to check in with her if she's able to come back? Maybe she was kicked out.
Okay, let me try to check.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give feedback short.
Okay.
Sorry. So sorry about that. I got cut off again. If you can, please, I don't know if you remember where I disappeared. Maybe start there again.
Yeah, I think we had finished the questions, right?
Yeah. The list, yes. We had finished the questions, yes.
So I'm just sharing about the overall effect of those experiences, and studies show that those experiences, they significantly impact our ability to cope with stress. They significantly impact our health. Some of the physical health diseases that we talk about, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure. There are several of them. Actually, I'll share a link of a video that you can share with your people, which is very, very powerful on the effects of adverse childhood experiences and how that impacts our health. It leads to addiction, depression, anxiety, all these mental health challenges in addition to physical health challenges, heart attacks, all these different health challenges that we experience, and we think it's more to do with just our physical health, and a lot of it is connected to our mental health as well, and all these challenges that we have gone through growing up. Now, I know in our culture, and I believe most people would agree with it, is that we were told, spare the rod, spoil the child, right? And you will also hear people say that, all right, Sia, we are losing you again.
She's gone again.
Yeah. I know sometimes the internet, the network can
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
challenge.
Looks like
Okay. Yeah, she gets back.
All right.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I hope we can connect all this together and hopefully it's flowing.
Yes.
I wanted to mention about now. Think about that, those questions, how your experience to look like, how that plays out today if you're a parent, whether, you still find yourself saying, when you're growing up, you say, I'll never do this. My mom used to do this. I'll never do it myself. But then you become a parent and the very thing you did not want to do, you start doing it. And you're like, wow, these are things I said I'll never do, but I'm still doing them. And then you start wondering, gosh, I thought I would be a better parent than my mom or my dad, or I'll do better. I'll do things differently. But what happened is that, all the learning that you did, it's monkey see, monkey do. We may say we will do different, but do you see that different that you want to do? You did it. So you end up just monkey see, monkey do. And unless you do the work, there's some noise. Is it Lala? You want to mute him?
Yeah, mute him.
All right. So the monkey see, monkey do, and we repeat and repeat and repeat, and then it becomes a pattern. Before we know it, we are just doing exactly what we saw, whether it's domestic violence, we start fighting with our spouses because that's all we know, that's what's familiar. And it becomes a cycle. It's being moved from one generation to another, and it's not surprising if you do a bit of investigation or some research. You become a researcher of your own family. Do a bit of research and find out, how was mom and dad raised? The people who raised you, how are they brought up in their generation? And then if you go back and back and back, you will realize that it's a repeat of the things that were done over and over and the things that were normalized. And the beautiful thing about all this now, as we're having this conversation, is that we are a generation that is talking about mental health more than any other generation. In fact, even here in the US, this conversation has become more aggressive in the last 2-3 years. So, and I feel like even us in Africa, we're catching up pretty fast, which is wonderful, because the only way to do different is to learn how that different looks like. And we cannot learn it just by sitting and not doing nothing about it. So I wanted to just mention a few, what research shows. If you go to WHO, World Health Organization, the studies they have done over the years, you realize that about 450 million people in the world are struggling with mental illness. And 1 million people die every year of suicide. And 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point in their life. Okay. And mental health challenges are among the leading causes of ill health and disability worldwide. So it's important that we are open to having these conversations. But the challenge now also is, why are people not seeking help? Here is the reason. Even if treatments are available.
Is it just me, or did we lose Miss Jane?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Sia, it's us you. We can hear.
Oh, okay. It's
Can
fine.
you
She
hear
can
me?
continue then.
What about maybe the people are following us on Google Meet? Are you still able to hear?
All right, Sia, I'm losing you again. Darius, can you hear me? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm trying to help our colleagues that have joined us through Google Meet. So
Okay.
that's why I'm sure that's why you can see I'm holding the phone.
Okay, can you hear yeah, can they hear me?
Dear colleagues on Google Meet, are you able to hear her? Sia, oh, okay. I've just realized I had muted my Google Meet, so let me just. Okay, yeah. Can you hear her? You can speak now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. They can hear you.
Okay. We can continue then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're going to be following using my phone and my laptop. So because it seems Sia is having problems.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
As long as you guys can hear me, that's fine. Okay, make sure I get my train of thought. So I wanted to just tackle a bit about the trauma response. When we grow up in those kind of environments where and sometimes people define the things that we tend to think that they are not a challenge or an issue, but it actually is, because these kind of experiences, it's not just what happened to you, it's also what did not happen. There are things that needed to be done that were not done, or there were things that were done that negatively impacted you. Now, for things that were not done, for example, you may find that there are some, parents who work far away from home. They are rarely home. Maybe dad works so far, they only come home once a month. So the children are spending a lot of time with their mother. So maybe when their father comes, they only get to interact with the kids maybe once or twice a month, 2 days in a month, because they come maybe on a Friday and then leave very early on a Monday, and they come at the end of the month after they're paid. While this is an arrangement that is meant to really ensure that there is income in the family and maybe provide food and things that are needed for the child to grow, the basic needs, which are also very vital, you may also find that there is the absence of a relationship of the kids with their father, the nurturance that comes from a father, for example. The presence of watching mother and father interact, how they communicate with each other, how they resolve their issues, how they enjoy their company with each other. That lacks now. So that is also what is not provided to the child. While we, of course, cannot exist in an ideal world, it's also important to recognize that these are things that can also impact the child, because there is no seeing what a healthy relationship looks like. So
maybe before you continue,
Mhm.
Madam Great, sorry, I almost called you by the name of the other
Grace, yeah.
therapist. Yeah, I'm sure you know Madam Grace, huh? The
Yes,
other counselor.
yes,
Okay,
she's
yeah.
a good friend.
Sorry, yeah, Madam Jen.
Mhm,
Yeah, just to make a follow up on what you've just said. I think
mhm,
this is a very serious issue
mhm.
that I think people out there, especially some of us that are aspiring to be parents, would need to be very much aware of. I love the point where you say that adverse childhood experiences are not just about what you've gone through, but also what you've not gone through that you were supposed to go through. Now, you've talked about, for example, here's a parent who's able to make ends meet. Okay, is working, is paying for school fees for the kids, bills, and so on and so forth. But he or she goes for work at 5 or as early as 6 when the kids are still sleeping, or that's when they're waking up. And by the time he's coming back, the kids are sleeping or they're about to sleep. All right. Now, this is a common trend. I'm yet to find I'm yet to find homes where such isn't the case. Now, this is what is happening, what is obtaining, especially in my jurisdiction. I know we have got different people on this platform, some from South Africa and some Kenyans, some Ugandans, and so on and so forth. I can speak for my country or the territory where I've grown up from. Okay, so you find, especially with the current way of doing things, back then at least would have one parent remaining home. Not that that's the ideal, but I'm just giving an example. Remaining home with the children, but this time around you find that both the father and the mother will not be present, or one of them will not be present. So I would want, I think, this is something we would want you to try to unlock. And at the end of it all, would want to know, how do we navigate? How do we balance? I want to make ends meet for my children. I want to have a wife who doesn't complain that I'm a lazy husband or I'm not providing the needs, despite her working, or she may not be working, whichever way. But at the same time, my children need to be raised with my presence. Okay, they need to be raised. They need to be raised. They need food as much as they need my presence. All right. They need school fees as much as they need my conversations with them. All right. So how do we balance that?
I am so glad you asked that question, because and I brought that point deliberately because it captures also, because we think of trauma or adverse childhood experiences as these big things, abuse, hitting and death and all that stuff. But the way to look at this is, one, parents must work. I'm a parent myself. I work full time. Now, the challenge that we find with this arrangement is that parents are not consciously raising their children. We work 8 hours a day, definitely, and we may be caught up in traffic trying to get home. But we have weekends, whereby parents, they may, there's all these chamas they attend with their fellow women groups. There's all these men thingies where they go eat, nyama choma and, all the different things. They want to hang out with, TV, catch up with their channels and all that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but we have to be very intentional when it comes to how we are managing our time and our interactions with our children. We need to, as we schedule where we know we have to go to work, because working brings money and helps us meet the basic needs of our children. We also have to be conscious of, even as we get this money for our children, how are we prioritizing the time when we are not working? What are we doing with it? What are we consciously pausing and telling ourselves that, yes, I have been out all week. I know I was on a business trip for 2 weeks. I was not home. We can embrace technology to connect with our children, but they also need that physical presence. What are we doing with that physical presence? Are we on our phones 24/7? Because, social media is a big thing now. Parents, kids, everybody's on it. And it's good. It's coming with its good. And of course, it's bad. Are we conscious of it? Are we intentional about our parenting? And not just parenting, even as couples. Are we intentional about connecting with each other? Are we intentional about the kind of conversations we are having around our children? You know, are we intentional about what we do at home, and whether we are bringing our children along to do things together with them? Whether it's, you know, if you're taking your car for a car wash, you know, taking the kids with you, bonding with them. Or sometimes you're like, you know what, this is too much of a hassle. I just need the convenience. I just want to go and get going. So I think it's more about working and also raising our children with consciousness. And part of these adverse childhood experiences that people go through, there wasn't that modeling of what it means maybe to be a present parent. So these are new things that we have to now tell our brain that, you know what, there is slowing down. There is time to let my kids know that I'm here. We talk about different things, about growing up, about what it means to be a man. But it's not just talking about it, it's modeling for them. I hope that answers your question, Darius.
Yeah, you can proceed. Thank you.
All right. So I wanted to bring up the trauma responses, or even the effects of now those childhood experiences that are you know, adverse for us. So some of these responses that we develop is a way of coping with all these different things that we experience as children is, and even as I go to the trauma responses, I also wanted to bring up the, you know, some of these examples of these things. Like, there's also the sibling favoritism. You know, some kids are treated better than others because they're named after a certain family member, you know, and other kids are not seen as, they're not favored because they're named after another family member. You know how it goes with the naming of kids, and a certain name is prioritized or seen as better than others. And also the you know, poverty in itself, it's very traumatizing for a child who does not know what they're going to eat the next day. There's also the part of parents, which is, this one is also very, very critical to note. There are parents raising children with special needs. A child with special needs requires a lot of attention from the parent. And this is the reality of it. Very, very, you know, time consuming and emotionally even draining for the parent to take care of a child who has special needs. But now this is now the other catch-22 when it comes to this. The parents spend a lot of time with this child and they actually don't give the other kids attention. It's not deliberate, because with this child, they need so much of it. But because of that lack of that consciousness of how it may impact the other children, so what the other kids do is they shrink themselves, they shrink their needs, because they feel like their needs don't matter, because they have a sibling who has severe needs that need to be attended to. So what does this do to the other child? They shrink, their needs are not met. And as they become adults, they're the kinds who are very, very independent. They rarely ask for help. They learned that my needs don't matter. While this is not deliberate, it's something that parents need to be conscious about, the impact that the time that this other child is taking may have on the other children, so that when they become conscious of it, they're able to maybe look for someone to help them with the other kid, while they spare time to bond and connect with these other children who don't have special needs, because they still have needs, the needs that matter as well, and they're very critical in their development. So those are things to note that sometimes we don't really think about, and they're not really, like, it's not intentional, but it comes with its own challenges. There's also the thing of parentification. We make our children grow up so quickly. You may find a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old is playing the role of a parent. They are left home taking care of all these other younger siblings, and they have to make sure they are okay. It's not the role of an 8-year-old to make sure that the other kids are okay. That is called parentification, making a child take on the roles of a parent. So those also come with their own impact. So how does this now affect us as adults? When we become adults, you may find that there are people who have they have explosive anger issues. Every little thing you say, it's like, whoa, you feel like around them you're walking on eggshells. They are very hard to maneuver. You may also find that there are those who have serious struggles trusting people because they grew up in an environment where everything is chaotic. Everything you say, it's turned against you and you're punished for it. So you struggle to trust people. Others, we struggle with people pleasing behaviors. We know that if I do good, if I am kind, if I am nice to you and I do everything you want from me, then I will not have to get in trouble. And we realize that, especially growing up in an environment where you have to be very hyper vigilant of your parents' mood. It may change anytime. So you want to be very nice. You want to do everything right that they want. You want to say yes to everything because that protects you. So you develop these people pleasing behaviors that you're abandoning yourself over and over, neglecting your own needs because the needs of others become a priority. Or some people may have difficulty trusting others. Some they trust too quickly. Every time someone tells them, "Oh, I love you," and they show something, they treat them nicely a little bit. It's like, boom, this is it, because they didn't get a lot of that growing up. So every little thing that someone shows that is nice, they go with it. And these are the challenges that, and people struggling with substances, of course, a lot of it is rooted in childhood pain that they went through. They were not able to cope, so they use drugs and substances to suppress that pain and numb it. And sometimes we think I don't even know which family today that I've not talked to that does not have a person who struggles with substances. Or each one of us probably knows somebody. It's not because it's bad behavior. It is because they struggle with a lot of deep-rooted trauma that has not been addressed. Does that excuse their behavior? Of course not. There will be consequences if you spend all your money in alcohol and fail to take care of your family. There will be consequences. But when we look at these issues, it's not because these are bad people. It's because they have gone through experiences in their life that they have not been able to manage in a healthy way. So there's also something called, even addiction to chaos. There are people who will thrive in chaos. They, when things are calm, they start poking because it's like, whoa, chaos is what I've been used to all my life. So I want to look at situations that are chaotic for me to feel at home, because that's where home is, chaos. So it's important to think about yourself. And this is where I want to come now to the healing part. I want you to think of yourself, not, and as you listen to this message, it's not to think of who needs to fix themselves or who needs it to take care of themselves. This is our own message. I will share a quick personal story. I went to school in high school. I mean, I used to struggle a lot to write. Literature was the worst subject. I used to get 0. And in those papers that we used to write, and the teacher would come to class and just announce to everybody. You know how it goes. We used to be lined up from position 1 to the last, and then the last is these things that are said to you. Like shaming was a way to get people to change their behavior, and of course, it never works. So the teacher would throw my paper to the front on the ground because I had a 0. Announce to everybody I have a 0. I would go pick it from the floor and go sit. It reached a point where I couldn't bear it. The teacher would come, we would meet at the door, I head out. And this was in high school. That was 1997 in Form 3, a long time ago. When I was doing my master's, now that was over 10 years ago from my graduation from high school. 10 years. That story, that back then we used to joke about it. And this is where I tell people, don't joke about things because the brain does not know about certain jokes that are meant to shame or bully. 10 years, when I was doing my master's, I would write my papers, the 10 pages, 15 pages papers that we write during school. I would submit them. And before I submit, I would ask my husband to read. And he would say, it's okay. I would be like, no, read again. He would assure me, no, they look good. It's like, no, please read again. I didn't know the voice from my high school teacher was back. It was telling me, Jane, you're going to get a 0. And every time my professor would even give me like an A or even a B, I could not trust it. I thought, oh my gosh, no, she must have made a mistake. It needs to be a 0. I had no idea I was carrying that trauma within me. 10 years later, that's when it's coming back. And that's when I realized, wow, this thing really harmed me for real. And it took me, a slow but steady process of writing and trusting that even if I get a 0, I will redo it. I never really got a 0, but that 0 voice was very strong. But of course, over time, it's like, oh yeah, this A, I think I worked hard. I deserved it. It's based on my hard work. So it's not like the imposter syndrome of feeling like, no, maybe they were going to discover I didn't deserve it. So we need to be mindful of these experiences. So healing requires that we become aware because we can't heal what we don't know. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to how you deal with things. When someone says something to you that is not very comfortable, what do you do? Do you try to be very nice to counter it so they can see you differently? Or do you sit with it, reflect on it, and try to see, maybe this is a message for me to improve or something? Or maybe this is their opinion and it does not apply to me. Reflect. How do you take care of yourself? Become aware of your tendencies. Start even journaling. Pay attention to your automatic reactions when you're upset or when you're afraid. Start small. It's baby steps. There's no magic pill that you're gonna take, just like we know even with weight loss, there's no magic pill that you're gonna take to process these things automatically. It's a journey, but it takes intentional work. So start small. When angry, ask yourself, what do I usually do when someone says something that pisses me off? Do I go off on everybody, or do I suppress myself? What do I do? Become curious. And then sometimes what you also need to do is be brutally honest with someone you trust, whether it's a good friend or a colleague or whoever that is, and let them know that, you know what, I'm on a mission to really improve how I relate with others, how I relate with myself. I'm open to feedback. So I would like you to be honest with me on areas that you really feel I could improve on. Be open to someone you trust so that you can start this journey, so that you become aware of those areas of your life that need some healing. And sometimes I also encourage practicing self-compassion, because this is a journey. You may be working on trying to be mindful of how you respond to people, but you may also find yourself losing your cool. But when you lose your cool, pat yourself and say, you know what, I'm trying. This time I didn't quite do very well, but I'm open to continuing to do this work and heal. So practice self-compassion even on those days when you don't do it well. And speak life to yourself. I know a lot of us have been shamed a lot in our life. So speak life. When you're making fun of yourself, sometimes I say, when you look at yourself in the
Mama,
mirror.
ongeza sauti kidogo.
All right. I was talking about now, affirming yourself. What things do you say to yourself? We've been shamed a lot throughout our life, and we have been told many things that are negative, and it's always a mistake here. It's always something that needs to be fixed. It's always this and that. So practice affirming yourself, speaking life to yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you say? Do you keep saying, oh gosh, oh, these pimples, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, oh my God, oh, my legs are, oh my God. So what are you saying to yourself? Your brain is recording that information, and it becomes your inner voice. And that voice, it's loud. It's very loud. So be mindful of what you're saying to yourself, because that really matters. And I love, like as we have a lot of interactions and dances and things that we do that are beautiful. So dance, body movement is very, very critical when it comes to healing our bodies, because a lot of trauma is also stored in the body. That's why you find that sometimes you may even smell something, and the smell can bring you back into maybe a moment when you experienced something not very good. So when you move your body, when you dance, when you do things that help your body to let go of some of this built up energy that is not good for the body, it's very healing. So if you're in those dance classes, if you're in those choirs, if you're in those places where you go and you do things together as a community, they are very, very healing. So keep doing it. Don't stop. And I think that seeking professional help, it's also very, very critical. So a lot of people, and I say this very, very seriously, because I worked, I did a lot of my practicum at Kenyatta National Hospital in Kenya. And I noticed that we had patients who are coming in our mental health department who were referred by their physicians, the primary care physician, their doctors. And they would come with all these x-rays, big envelopes. They had spent money trying to do the chest x-ray, blood work and stuff. And of course, when the doctors don't find anything in your body that is physically wrong with you, they bring you to the mental health because they realize it's psychological. So the moment we start encouraging these patients to start, coming for mental health services, you notice now they stop taking it serious. They start saying it's expensive. Oh, it's this, it's that. But you see, when it was physical, they're taking it seriously. They're doing everything they can to get money for those x-rays. I tell people, let us normalize whatever it looks like for you to get help. Even if it's going to cost you money, go and do it. We are owning very good cars. We have built beautiful homes. We are taking our kids to private schools. We are doing all these wonderful things. It's beautiful. We can buy clothes and our closets are falling with all these clothes. We can do our hair. We can do all this makeup. It's expensive, all these things. But tell people to heal and do the work. Ooh, This now becomes, oh no, therapy is expensive, blah, blah, blah. Take your healing seriously. In fact, when you do your inner work, you're more likely to enjoy that car. You're more likely to enjoy that wonderful job you have. You're more likely to enjoy your home because it's not just a house, it's a home where there's love, there is relationships that are healthy. You're more likely to enjoy this wealth. So take your healing seriously. It matters as well. I will stop there. If there are any questions, I am open to answering them. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Thank you, Darius.
If you've got a question, on for those who are following us on Google Meet, Sia, is this live stream on Facebook and YouTube?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do we have any questions from Facebook?
No.
Any questions?
Okay. Our friends on Google Meet, any question or any contribution and observation? Okay, I wanted to make a comment. Yeah, to make a comment on what Madame Jen Courier mentioned towards the end of her presentation. So Madame Jen says that the time she was working at Kenyatta what? National Hospital? Yeah, Kenyatta National Hospital, something like that. When patients, whenever people were not well, they of course came to the hospital. They were checked, and they did the X-ray. They did all the tests that are necessary. But then, as the fate would have it, the physicians would not find anything. So at the point when these people are referred to the mental health section, they would not take it seriously. They would come up with excuse. They would not come for therapy session. Now, this is a very serious issue that I, as a psychologist, has noticed so many times. And I always say this, and that's the reason why I no longer take in clients who have complaints, who just complain, oh, you're too expensive, this and that. But these are the same people who are very much ready to spend money on hair. They hair, they have, or they would want to have. They're ready to spend anything. These are some people who are ready to bleach their skin, okay, and they'll spend anything. They are ready. If in the case of men, I'm not sure, Sia, in your country, in South Africa, Madam Jen, I'm not sure in America where you are, or in Kenya where you come from, whether there are men who are like in my country, anything that talks about libido, they are ready to spend. Okay, you say, oh, this juice can make you last 3 hours in bed, or what? They are ready to spend. Okay, anything to enlarge their whatever, they can spend anything. Okay, so when you look at the excuses people make, you realize that the problem is not necessarily that mental health care is expensive. Yeah, the problem is, number one, our priorities are not right. Okay, we can do any other things, we can spend anything on other things, but when it comes to mental health, we want to say it's expensive. Okay, now, unfortunately, we've grown up in a society where mental health, where health, to us, health is the absence of disease. What we don't know is that health is the harmonious wellness of a human being, mentally, physically, and socially. So if you're not socially okay, then you're not healthy. If you're not mentally okay, then you're not healthy. You may be physically okay. You've checked your BP, you've checked your sugar levels, you've checked everything. But as long as you're not mentally okay, you're not okay. And the reason is simple, because these facets of life, they interact. What affects the physical affects the mental, and subsequently affects the what do you call this, the social. And it's also the same way. If it affects the social will affect the mental affect the, like that. It's like a chain. What affects one affects the other. So today you might be celebrating that your blood pressure is okay, but because you have depression, that can make your blood, that can temper with your blood pressure. Actually, as a matter of fact, for some of us who may not know, type 2 diabetes, depression makes one susceptible to having things like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and of course, so many other physical ailments. So I would want to say that it's important. We need to grow to a point of putting a high premium, a high value, high price on our mental health. Okay, and for me, I feel like if there's something that actually unlocks, I know I may be somebody, I can see we've got two medical doctors in our midst, and they may say I'm being biased, but that's fine. I would say what unlocks health is mental health. For me, that's what I feel. The reason why I'm saying so is this. There's some physical ailment which people fail to come out like that they have, especially men. Okay, you're having this particular illness, you're failing to come out or to go to the hospital, or even if you have it, you're failing to come out so that people can give you the support that you need for you to receive proper care. Okay, now what's that? The problem there is still mental. Understand? So if the mental aspect is dealt with, the stigma is dealt with. Of course, the stigma, we deal with it mentally. Okay, the mental aspect is dealt with. You discover that here is somebody who, I'll give an example. I've had clients in the past. They've failed to adhere to the antiretroviral treatment because they are maybe in a college, and at a college they share rooms and they don't want their friends to see them take the ARV. Okay, because they fear being judged, they fear being ashamed, and so on and so forth. So what's at play there? It's the mental aspect. So I feel like the moment we're going to put a high premium on the mental aspect of our life, it's going to unlock our social problems and it's our social ailments, and it's going to unlock our physical ailments. Thank you so much. Sia, what do you have to say as we conclude this?
Thank you so much, Daniel. I wanted to say, okay, I feel like I'm entering. Let me try and do research.
Can you hear me? I'm trying on the other side.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you, but there's some
Yeah,
echo.
let me reduce my volume this side.
I think so. Yeah, use one platform.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that, what Miss Jane was saying about people getting sick physically, but they feel sick, but they're not really, the doctors are not picking up what's going on. I remember my first time of being diagnosed with depression. It was actually through a medical doctor who I was seeing at that time. And I kept on going to him, with this pain, whatever. And eventually he sat me down. He said, there's something you're going through that is not really physical. I'd like you to go see somebody else. And then he gave me a referral to a psychologist. That's how I got to know that I was depressed. And the whole time I was going to him, I was convinced that what was wrong was my body, my physical body. But eventually we figured out, we found out that what was wrong was not my mental body, my physical body, but my mental state. So as a person who's committed to mental health, I also wanted to agree with you that we have so much money to spend on a whole lot of things. Most probably because we don't see how serious mental health is, or we think it's just one of those things we can get by without really attending to. Hence, we can go and buy a Peruvian weave for 5,000 Rand and complain that a session for a psychologist is 800 Rand or 1,000 Rand. So I want to encourage people. I'm very passionate. This is one of the topics I'm really passionate about, to deal with our childhood issues, because that's one thing that personally in my life I have seen affecting me so much. So let us invest in our mental health. Let us not be afraid to pop up the money and pay for it, because it's who we are. It's what makes who we are. What you were saying, that what makes health is mental health.
Yeah, there is somebody on Google Meet who actually is a fellow psychologist who would want to say something. Mr. Darlington, you may come through quickly. We want to wrap up. Darlington? Oh, sorry. I've just realized I'd muted my... Okay, allow me just to... Okay, you can speak.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a very interesting, a quick one. Yeah. There was a comment that the madam made in terms of her being reminded of what she went through, of getting low marks in an adult, life. Well, that behavior, I'm still observing it. So I have just recently just to quote it, ascending and descending, behavior, where I've noticed that normally all of us, we experience that every after 5 years. We seem to be going to our childhood, behaviors, or we are coming out of them. So the more we stay, in our childhood traumatic experience, the harder it will become for us to get out of them, even when we are adults. So we need to do all we can, and I do agree with all of you that we need to spend more time to understand mental health itself. I know we have spent a lot of our time talking about mental health illnesses as opposed to mental health itself. So in short, mental health is just how happy you are, and the mental health illness is how sad we are. So others are seeing them now, they're even getting labels like there's schizophrenia and all these other mental health illnesses that now they're labeling themselves, and they're not getting out of the same traumatic experiences that they would want to. So a quicker one is that let's focus also on our happy side. Let's use happiness to heal our traumatic experiences if we want to heal. So I'd want to see also my fellow psychologists, for us to see how happiness can deal with all these various, traumatic experiences that we have said, because we are not offering per se the alternatives. Because a lot of people know now what depression can do, stress can do, and all these other things can do, but they are forgetting to know what happiness can do to solve their same traumatic and psychological problems. So that's just a contribution I wanted to make. It was quite very insightful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlington. Sia, I don't know if maybe let me just say that if we don't have any other hand from the people, or any question from the people that are following us through Google Meet or Facebook or YouTube, I would want to give this opportunity to Madam Jen Courier to just wrap up a few words before we go.
What I would say in wrapping up is that healing journey is lifetime. There are certain things that will come up even in our 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. that has been stored somewhere in our subconscious, and eventually we will address it. Like for me, the experience with high school, I had no idea it was there, but it was in my subconscious somewhere. The only way I was able to address it, because I already now did through school, going back to school, I had to face it, and it just came. It was automatic. It just showed up. I had no idea. So some of these things, we will be healing them, as we go, and sometimes we may not even know they're there until something happens, and then it comes back. I would highly suggest that, in our culture, especially the African context, we need to, like Darius, I know you mentioned, when you have your family, maybe you don't yet. So what I would say is we prioritize weddings, for example, prioritize your healing and your thriving journey, understanding what is a healthy relationship. Maybe that would be our next topic. What is healthy? Because a lot of us don't have a reference of what is healthy, so that we don't perform for the world with big weddings. Some we call helicopter weddings and all those stuff with cars and stuff. But then you don't know how to relate with each other when you get home. So let's take healing seriously, one baby step at a time, and enjoy life. It's beautiful. Love is a beautiful thing. We just have to reframe how we define love, because most of us, it was not defined in a very healthy way. And one day at a time, one baby step at a time. You're not going to magically heal in a day. It's going to take time, but it's worth the investment. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed being here today.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to having you again next week. What is our topic for next week, Madam Jen? I've forgotten. Just remind me.
I think it's on what is healthy relationships versus what is dysfunctional family versus healthy family.
Oh, okay, yes. Dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
Yes, dysfunctional families and healthy families. So a good number of us have been raised in families, where actually our families have been number one places where our mental health has been damaged. So let's come and learn next week. However, next week we're getting back to our usual. As you may know, we meet every Thursday. Today was just a special day. We thought, due to our busy schedule, we brought the day to Wednesday. But next week we are reverting to Thursday, and we'll be having the same presenter. Let's prepare that. And thank you so much. I don't know, Sia, do you have anything to say? Sia?
No, nothing to say. Thank you so much, Matt Jane, for joining us. And thank you, Darius, for being a wonderful host. And thank you to everyone for being patient with me in my electricity and network problems.
Thank you so much. Good night and God bless you all. Good day, Ma'am Jen there. We know it's still day. Bye.
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 Sia, are you ending the show?
I want to end the broadcast, but I'm failing. I don't know what happened to my page. Okay, let me find the button. Can you see end broadcast on your side?
No, it's just telling me to leave the.
If you can, please just press it.
No. There's somewhere where it just says leave.
Okay,
leave.
Let me try it. No. Let me find it.
Okay, so I'm now leaving. Bye.
My technical issues are many today. Found it. No, don't leave.